that is a very good one, because usually...
Ever wondered how to set goals that drive rapid growth? Today we're diving deep with Andrey, a product growth expert with over 17 years in the field and a former VP of product at Flo Health. Andrey has a knack for transforming good products into industry leaders. In this episode, we explore how to set effective product goals aligned with business metrics, the magic behind creating seamless feedback loops within product teams, and real-life examples from Andrey's vast consulting experience that highlights key strategies for success. Whether you're a product manager, business leader, or just someone passionate about product growth, this conversation is packed with insights you won't want to miss. So, Andrey, how do you set effective goals for a product team aiming for rapid growth?
So that is a very good one, because usually there are two types of goals in every company. You start with a business goal and then you set product goals, but I have seen a lot of examples where they simply do not connect to each other. There is no direct connection. Like a PM has a goal of just boosting a single user-centric metric, like number of sessions or the session duration or times, or I don't know, a user tried to use a certain feature and so on. And there is like a guess, or there is a hypothesis that this could be beneficial for the company level OKR, that is, for example, revenue. And that is basically so frequent that I decided that we need to start addressing that in companies that I consult. So that was not an issue at Flo. And basically the waterfall OKR we had at Flo was the example I always try to help people follow, because that's super easy. The only rule you're setting is you have to go from the bigger metric, that is a business metric, to a certain metric of a product team with no interruptions and no assumptions in between. So like, if you're saying that you want to improve retention, let's say day 7 retention for some reason, you have to prove, so you have to build a model. That could be an Excel or Google Sheets file that just shows the way of your thinking. Nobody's telling that you need to prove it as a theorem or something, but basically you just need to share your thoughts. How do you think the metric you're going to focus on is actually connected, and actually does it actually contribute to the company level metric or not? So the rule is very simple to say, but that is nearly impossible to follow, especially for the new product teams that mostly consist of junior to mid-level PMs. So it's easier for senior people that know more about analytics, that could build different models by themselves and put that in neat way, like in a file, and then share it, and then make people understand how it works. So basically there is a way to help them do this, and actually that starts with business, that starts with the stakeholders. So you're trying to help them understand the business metric. You definitely have to explain that. You definitely have to tell them as much as they need about that. Answer a lot of questions. Some of them you would say are excessive. So you have to survive through this dialogue, and then that makes things easier. So people really understand that actually, let's say, when the CEO says revenue, that doesn't mean short-term revenue we're going to get in this particular month. Actually, what he or she is saying is in 3 years, in 3 years of a payback period, we should accumulate enough money for the company to be still growing, to fulfill the mission of the company. So we're building the same product. We're still on the same track. We're hiring more and more people. We're buying more and more traffic. But in order to do this, we need more money. We're getting some of that from funding, but also we need to be self-sustainable. So that's why what we actually need is trying to get more money on a long-term basis. And as soon as a PM knows that, it actually switches their attention from a short span tasks they could do, like let's try to run another sale campaign, or let's try to do something in day zero so people who didn't convert as soon as they installed the app will do so during the first session. Well, maybe that's not something you really need to do. Maybe you need to think about subscription retention. Maybe you need to work more with the audience that is already on your free trial, making sure they will convert to your paid subscription in 2 weeks or even in a month, doesn't matter. So basically that is the idea. You're more transparent as a business, so you're giving more to your product people to understand. And there is a second one. That's not a rule, but that's something that really helps. That is a basic feedback loop. I mean, we do a lot of feedback loops in our job. That's what we really master. That's what we could create for our customers, for our clients, for our users. But that's something we almost never create for our stakeholders, and that's a pity. So basically, when you get that info, then the dialogue is over, and you feel like you know everything, like why this business goal looks exactly like that. And when you created your own OKRs, your product level OKRs, and then you have shown the connection of these product level OKRs with the bigger picture that you have seen from the CEO or other stakeholders, you definitely should push it there, and you should get the right feedback. I don't think it is really important to get that before the start of the year or a quarter. You could do this on the way, like while you're doing that, and stakeholders may not reply immediately. I mean, who does? So basically, what you will see is you start working at the beginning of the year or at the beginning of the quarter, following your own OKRs that you feel like are pretty well connected with the company level OKRs. But you could get the feedback that you asked for at the very beginning of the quarter. If you get that in the middle of the quarter, and it says, well, actually, that doesn't look like you're moving in the right direction, that is a great feedback, because you still have 6 more weeks to do something about that. So yeah, basically, as a recap, first, business and stakeholders should be more transparent in setting their goals and describing why this actual metric is so good for the company and so important right now. PMs and other product people should be open enough to ask questions about that. Then you create your own product OKRs or product metrics. You're aligning that with the business metric, the bigger metric, in a way that shows that they are actually connected. Doesn't mean that you have to prove a theorem, but you still have to show a few steps. How do you think that would definitely work? And then, as soon as you did that, you just stick to that, you work with that, but you push that up and you get some feedback sooner or later that may correct your course. Yeah. I've been speaking for like 10 minutes straight, so ask me something maybe.
No, it's amazing. But do you mind giving an example of this process, either from the consulting companies that you work with or from previous experience at Flo or the dating company?
Yeah, definitely. So I would give you the biggest example that actually it's so bold. It happens every time. And actually I've already spoiled that. So what the CEO says or what the board says, we need more money. I mean, that's the business metric. We need more money, and it's really cool that they could define more, like we need 15% more money on or 20% more money on 3 times more money. That is a good one, because sometimes you have to deal with we just need more. You tell us how much we could get. So basically we start with that, and it looks like it is a goal that is easily manageable, by a monetization PM, by someone who's in charge of the product's monetization. So for example, at Flo, when you're getting a goal of bringing more revenue and you're more on the commercial side of the product, you know what your current leverages are. So basically your first leverage is your first session, is your first day. So things you could do while you onboard the user. So you could convert like more than a half of the users while you onboard them by showing them what you're going to do. Next, those are the users who have already converted or semi-converted to their trial period or an introductory period, anything like that. So you could do something with them. Also, you have your monthly active audience. You have people that are using your product. Some of them pay, some of them don't. So you could actually do something for them. You could help them understand that the product has some value and how could they actually move towards that value. Basically, that's that easy. We wouldn't dive deeper, but you see these three different audiences. First one is everybody who have installed the app. Second one is the ones who have already converted, and the third one's the ones who are they are retained, but you don't know if they pay or not. They're just your monthly active audience. We could dive deeper. We could talk about freemium or premium and so on, but we wouldn't. So what you do is you're referring to the rule of thumb that says, what's your reach? How many users could you reach with the features you could present? So you see what is the audience for your features. And I would say that depending on the product, that may be your first day after the install, or that may be your normal day, the day when you could deal with the whole monthly active audience. So that's basically every single day of your app. So depending on that, you're making the choice, depending on reach. Then you're narrowing that down to the conversion rate. And again, you see if you could convert these people or not. And that depends on what are you actually converting them to. So for the users that you have on day zero, you're basically talking about a very low level of conversion. Let's say 20%, 25% users converted to trial is actually pretty good for as an example metric. So that is pretty cool, but that's still 20%, and they will activate the trials. Let's say half of them will do so. So that's actually 10% of your initial audience, and you're selling them some starting product. So again, from the monetization perspective, it looks like the funnel is really big, but it's narrowing down pretty soon during one day. So you could see what leverage you have there in terms of money, and mostly that would be short-term money. That would be giving people something, giving people value in exchange for their payment. And well, that's good as a start. That's good if you need to boost an app. But long-term, I wouldn't say that's the best strategy. The second one will be working with your monthly active audience. And here you have two leverages. So definitely you have your freemium audience. You could try to convert to some new features or explain older features to them. Or you have a newer or a paying audience that is actually both using your app and already paying for that. And again, you could do two things here. You could introduce more plans, you could introduce more tires, you could introduce more value, or you could do the value nurturing thing. So you're basically telling these people that they have made a smart choice. You're giving them some affirmations about the product and about their experience with the product. Again, so it doesn't mean that you need to use some weasel words or some marketing copy here. I'm not telling about that. Let's say you have an app that has more than 10 features. Flo is an app that has definitely more than 10 features. And you see that users from your monthly active audience mostly discover just 5 or 6 of them during their first year. And that's awful, because in a year they will make a decision to prolong the subscription or to stop that. They haven't seen nearly half of the app. So you have a chance to introduce you to that feature, to introduce them to that feature during the year. So you could do this in a very fancy way, like putting that into the user flow, seamless and nice, and that's something I really like doing. But also, if you're just doing that, I mean, straight in the face, like showing them some screens, showing them some product tours, showing them some tutorials, so making them engaging with the parts of the product they have never seen before, and closing that feedback loop to see that they know how to go back to that same feature. So not just showing them the feature, but showing them the way to get to that feature, showing them the way to repeat this experience. That is actually something that works really good for subscription retention and for user retention in general. And there is a great metric that is called a life rate, when you see how many of your subscribers are actually subscribed. So how many of them are active, how many of them have their renewal turned on. And you will see that all of your efforts on the value nurturing, starting from day one, will significantly improve your life rates. And you will see that they do not make the decision at the end of the year. They make it every single day they use the app, and it's just cumulative. So engage with them, tell them more about the product they already have and they already paid for, and it really works. So yeah, I don't know if we are to abstract on that or not, but I'm trying to put that together in a way we did that at Flo, and in a way I'm doing that with my clients at the moment.
What metrics or OKRs do you recommend for tracking and ensuring progress?
Oh, I would say first, doesn't matter what exact metrics we're talking about. What matters is how many metrics are you going to track. So we have that dashboard fatigue at the moment, when you track like dozens of metrics, and some of them matter, some of them not, and you do not know which one is which. So that is the biggest issue. So what I would recommend is having no more than 5 top-level metrics, and I would arrange them in a DuPont tree. So a DuPont tree is a way to work with graphs. It's really easy. So that's a graph, and every element of a graph could be connected to the other ones using just 4 basic arithmetic. You either could sum that, you could you could multiply, you could divide, and that's pretty it. So it makes the metrics well connected. So for example, you have a top-level metric that is your app's daily revenue. That could be decomposed into your app's LTV and the number of users. That is a good one. There is another decomposition you could put here, like number of new users that are multiplied by the conversion rate, and number of old users multiplied by their conversion rate. So how many old users and how many new users you have converted, and so on. So the thing is, you always have this tree that has no more than 5, well, maybe 7 elements connected together. And there are no assumptions in this tree. There's just pure arithmetics. So if you see that the revenue is down, either the LTV is down or the number of users is down. If the revenue is up, it means that either you have a successful experiment with LTV or you have gained more users for some reason. So that is that simple, and it really helps you. What doesn't help you is knowing that the 7th session of a user is shorter than the first 6. but that doesn't relate to anything that is more top level than that. I mean, that usually happens, and that was a real life example of something I have seen in a dashboard, like 7 sessions, their duration, and the problem is here. We know that it's here, but we're not learning anything. We don't know what we could do about that, because we need to go deeper, or we need to be more abstract, and we can't, because we do not know what is the place of this metric in our tree.
You mentioned flow and revenue, and usually, almost always, period trackers are never, they don't make money. How would you guys were able to make money at Flo?
Oh, that's my favorite story. I've heard that numerous times, like period trackers can't be monetized. Period trackers can't make money. And actually, that's pretty correct. And I felt like what it sounds like that's true. So you need to stop being a period tracker. That's the idea. So and that helped Flo. That helped a lot of copycats or other apps that were following the same structure, the same strategy. So period tracking is great for retention. It is something, it is kind of, it's a mechanic that works pretty well for users to go back to the app for some reason. But that's where it is. That is the basic period tracking functionality. So you want to know when your period starts, you open the app, you close the app, and you come back next month. That's pretty much it. That's how it worked before Flo. So we've been spending a lot of time doing research, talking to users, talking to doctors, talking to medical professionals, and understanding what's actually female health is, what does it consist of, and how that could be connected with period tracking. Because we know what period tracking is about, but we also know that period tracking is not just the start and the end of your period. That's also your hormone level that is moving up and down during the month. Different hormones have different patterns. Also, that is ovulation and the window around the ovulation that you could conceive. Also, there are nasty diseases that you could get, and they somehow affect your menstrual cycle. So it means that knowing more about menstrual cycle could help you understand if you are at risk or not. Also, menstrual cycle, thus hormones, are actually pretty influential on your physical and mental state through the cycle, and so on. So building these things is easy, but making people consume that and making people understand that that gives them the value was the hardest part. So we've been trying to do like numerous attempts. Let's say the content part. So it looks like the simplest way to create an app is cater users with content, like video content, audio content, text, anything. So we started with content. So we started with, let's say, generic content that may be helpful to you regarding the phase of your cycle you're currently in. And that was very easy, not so easy to consume, because that was just, a piece of content was basically an article. So that's text and maybe some pictures, but that's pretty much it. Then we talked a lot to our users, and we tried to understand what is actually easily consumable. What is something you could interact with more? And we added videos. It worked pretty good for us, but that was still something we could evolve. So we tried to arrange that in something that we could call video courses at the time. So that's basically videos that are arranged in a neat sequence, and you could move through that sequence and you could get your value chunk by chunk. So that's pretty much cool. That worked. But actually we moved even forwards and we tried to pack that into an easy format that is basically familiar to everyone. That's stories. So that's TikTok, that's Instagram stories. I think we have stories everywhere now. WhatsApp, Facebook. Like we tried to put that together, but in a very easily consumable way, and it really worked. And then we just started reimagining users' journey, like adding that day by day, so that every day of your cycle you have some generic information that may help you. You have personalized information about you that is based on your cycle, based on the symptoms you log, and based on everything we know about you. And also there is a different journey that just helps you develop. It starts with your day one with the app. That doesn't mean what day of cycle it is, or that doesn't matter what phase are you in. We're just trying to educate you, and we're giving you some information. But again, that would be personalized, that would be put in a way that you would consume right now. For example, the same story about ovulation may be different for ones who want to conceive or the ones who want to avoid conception. That's how it works. So a lot of content constantly added to the app made people curious, like will there be an end for that? And there is no end for that. You're just getting more and more information, and that's not dull. That's something that's really interesting. And then we started putting more feedback loops into that. So the more you log, the more symptoms you're telling us about, the better content you get, the more you know about yourself, the more value, the more actionable advice you're getting from us. So basically that was a dive into 2020, I believe. So we've been following that strategy and adding more and more functionality to that. But the core idea is pretty much here. You're logging and you're getting back valuable advice that is actually quite actionable. And the verticals of this advice are multiplying over time. So starting with like conception and diseases, so things like that. And now that's more about mastering your partnership, your orgasm, and things like that.
So the way you added content in order to increase engagement, but still, how did you monetize?
Yeah, that's a good one. So as I've mentioned earlier today, it's really easy to do things for a monetization team. You're just putting certain things in the best place possible, and it works. Like a paywall after your onboarding during the third day, and woohoo, that does the job. Well, what we did and what we had was we were working very closely together. I mean, the commercial guys and the product guys. I mean, they weren't different people. That wasn't like you have some people that are creating the products and they're trying to give it away to everybody for free, and there are some greedy monetization guys that are trying to get some, milk another cow and so on. That wasn't like that. So it was pretty much in sync, starting with the premium first approach. So we never questioned that we're making a product that should be paid, that should be something you want to pay for. You never question that your doctor should get some kind of a salary. Are they getting it from your pockets? Are they getting that from an insurance company or from the government? That doesn't matter, because that is something of great value to you, something they do that is of a great value to you. So that was the first approach. So we agreed that a certain part of the product is going to be free forever because that is our mission. So we would never lock things like basic predictions, so you would know when your next cycle starts. And also we spent a lot of resources on making the models better and better. So moving from we could be 1 day, I mean, that's not a big deal if you would know about your coming periods in an hour, but if you're not knowing about that in a day, that is an issue. So we've been tuning that, but not in a way to decrease these periods of prediction, but in a way that people with harder predictions can get them too. Let's say you have a regular cycle, and that is a big problem. And actually, way more people than you think have irregular cycle and don't know about that because they think it's still regularish, but that's not true. So helping them understand that could be predicted, that was a part of our job. So that was the one thing, like the core free functionality that will definitely be the best period tracker ever, and that would be available to everybody. On top of that, we released mostly premium features. I would say like 90% features we released were actually something that was a part of Flo Premium. So we're investing pretty hard into that, our time, money, resources. We're trying to create a bespoke product, and it goes right into the Flo subscription. What does it say to a user? Like, every single year, you're paying pretty much the same price for the annual subscription, but the subscription gets better and better. The subscription includes more and more value over time. I mean, sometimes that's not only about the content that is inside. Sometimes it's more about new features. It's about the community inside the app. It's about Flo AI assistant and so on. Again, it's adding more and more value, but you're paying pretty much the same, and it works really well for user retention. By the way, you could do this with any kind of product, but you have to make sure that the freemium part is working pretty well for your users. It's competing with products like, Apple Watch period tracker and something like that. But also your users will always face the premium product that could give them so much value. That should be near every single day. So there is no way your user is just let me give you a quick example, because that is a common mistake I have seen a lot of times. You're doing a freemium product that is part core functionality that is free, and then some extra functionality that's not free. That's premium. So when you try to implement that, then you try to release the app, you see that like 20% of your users are converting to your premium part of the product. That's pretty cool. But also you see that the other 80% are not even facing this premium part of the product. So they still could use the freemium, but they feel like there is nothing else in this app. I mean, I just need like 1% of the functionality. I'm using that functionality. I'm fine with that. I will never, ever think about giving something extra a chance because I have no idea there is anything extra in the app. So that may sound rough, but you need to make users sure they know there is a premium product here. And again, there is a nasty way to do this. You could just show a lot of paywalls. You could show a lot of videos that tell people that's okay, there is something premium that's better for you. Let's say Duolingo, they do it perfectly. Or you could implement that directly into user's journey. Let's say at Flo, when you're using the free part of the product, you could log all the symptoms you want, well, most of the symptoms you want, and you will see that you're getting stories based on those symptoms that are in your feed. And a nice animation shows you they're actually appearing there. So that's something new that's made and that's created based on what you did before. And you could open this story and you could read a part of that or even the whole story. But at the end, you will see, okay, that's just a demo. So you have seen what we could do. You could see the value we could deliver. But actually, that's a part of the premium. So sometimes you'll get it, sometimes you won't. If you want to get it every single time, okay, here's a paywall. You could just get the subscription. So yeah, when you see that your users are not facing your premium part of the product, you're doing freemium wrong.
I want to jump into launch strategies and experiments. What are some of the most successful launch strategies you've employed for new products?
Shoo, that is a good one. Depending on the investment, I would say. So a few years ago, well, actually 5 or 6 years ago, when the funding was way easier and you could raise money for an idea, I would say that the biggest strategy was create a free product that is good enough. Copycats your competitors. Do it a bit better than they do, but keep it free. As soon as you get huge monthly active audience, start monetizing. So sometimes you will spend half a year on building your monthly active audience. Sometimes that may take years, but that was a solid strategy that really worked, and that doesn't work anymore because of the venture winter that is closely extending to a venture spring, I believe. But again, that was good times, but we have to have some nostalgia about that. But that's pretty much it. So at the moment, you have to iterate, and the only way for you to grow is to iterate. So that means adopting experiments from day one of your product. I mean, from the idea phase, even maybe. So when you don't have enough traffic to run experiments, you still could do things that are either very cheap or free or still affordable. Like you have a prototype before you even published your app in stores. What you could do, you could create clickable prototypes of your design, and you could do this in a boundary setting way. So you're not creating two slightly different designs of your main screen and your basic journey. You're creating them very different. So let's say one resembles Uber and the other one resembles, let's say, Spotify. Very different experience. So you do this, and then you go to Fiverr or any other platform that could recruit people. You show that to them, not both at the same time. You're showing one to 10 people, the other to the 10 people. Definitely you will get zero statistical significance on what you will hear, but you will hear problems. So if we're talking about what you could get from there, you will hear what people think is an issue here. So that means that you will end up with the version that has less issues, that is more, close to the people's understanding how these products may work. And you're doing that constantly with all versions of your journey, with all your screens, and so on. So next thing, before doing something big with your app, or before even publishing that, you could spend some time on your ads creatives, like rotate them and see what kind of creative is better and what kinds of creative is bringing you more users in terms of installs, in terms of going to your landing page. That's that simple. Just making sure that the top of the funnel isn't too narrow, because maybe you feel like the product is big and you feel like the market is like still blue ocean. But when you try to acquire traffic, well, you see that it doesn't work for some reason. Like, every single new parent, if they're in the IT, has this little thingy in their brain, like, I should do a pregnancy app. Our pregnancy was so hard. We need to ease that burden for more people. And as soon as they're trying to understand what's basically building a pregnancy app is, they see that that is a red ocean if you're trying to do something about user acquisition. Because too many people, too many companies are competing for these users, and the lifetime is just 9 months. It's insanely short. And you're competing with, let's say, Procter & Gamble. You're competing with L'Oreal. You're competing with companies whose marketing budgets are so big. So doing your research, just buying some traffic and see if it converts or not, that is a good idea. And again, that is something iterative you could do during the whole lifetime of your product. So next thing, as soon as you have some traffic, you could run your first A/B tests. And again, that should be boundary setting. So testing different things like no onboarding versus an onboarding that consists of 12 screens. Not just trying to understand if one screen will make a difference. That way, you're getting your statistical significance better and faster. And also you could, I've studied statistics in the university for 2 years. And it gives me so much pain when people are saying, well, that's close to being significant. That's why we could proceed with that. That's bullshit. I mean, it never works. So either you say, okay, I want to detect a 5% uplift, and I want to be 90% sure confident about that. And I know that I will need 150 users to do so. That sounds cool to me. But if you feel like you're doing that numerous times and you don't get any significance here, you need to act different. So from the very beginning, so not trying to let the devil on your shoulder tell you that, okay, it's not statistically significant, but we could use this data. No, do this dialogue before. Talk to your devil before you start the experiment. Thinking like, okay, we may not be able to detect 5%. Let's detect 15. So that would be the minimal detectable effect we will fall for. And 95%, well, we're just beginning, and our hypotheses are pretty bold. Let's lower that down to like 80%. That should be fine. And you will see that you will need significantly less users, and you will know that from the very beginning, and there wouldn't be any surprises. So if you're not getting your 15%, maybe you're getting 13, maybe you're getting 12. You will never know. You just discontinue this experiment and you run another one. So you're going in a cadence that will let you pass through more experiments in a certain amount of time. And some of the experiments that you decided they weren't successful because you didn't get statistical significance for 15%, you're not abandoning that. That's still in your backlog, and in a year or in a quarter, you will go back to that. Then you have more traffic, then you have already grown. You may go back to your backlog, you may take that, and you may shut your devil, and you will just work with that as you planned before. So we're detecting 5% right now. Yeah, we will need 3 times more users for that, but that's fine. We already have it. The users are already here. So yeah, Basically, what you really need to keep your eye on is that you're running more and more experiments. And experiments is not always A/B testing. That may be talking to people, kinda. That may be buying some traffic, kinda. And again, so the idea is you're making experiments, you're making more and more over time. So if your last quarter was 3 experiments, this quarter should be 6. And that could be more and more, like at Flo. I believe that's more than 600 experiments in a year for a single vertical. So that's a lot. That's about 2 experiments started or conducted a day. So that's pretty much what you could get from a single vertical. Different teams in a single vertical, but still. So. And you keep an eye on your hypothesis, making sure they're bold enough, making sure you're not trying to, compare very similar things, thinking that a color or a shape of a button may instantly give you 2x. I mean, I have seen examples of changing color and shape and getting you up to 20% maybe, but we're not talking 20% today. At the very beginning, we need bold experiments that either 2 times more or 2 times less. So as soon as you're scaled enough, as soon as you get a product good enough to buy more traffic or to acquire more traffic in a different way, like from organic or anywhere else, that's the time to go to the smaller hypothesis. That's the time to fine-tune your experiments and so on. But at the very beginning, you should be very bold.
Would you be able to share some examples of initial experiments that led to successful product launches? Can you give an example from your experience?
Phew, dozens, I believe. Well, I could start with my favorite one, that is a monetization one, and then we could follow up with some product experience. The monetization one was really, really so fun. So, you know that sometimes you present users with different products on a paywall to make sure they could compare it, or they may choose, and actually that's a lie. They never choose. So you intend them to buy one and the other one is just a distractor. So that's how it works. And sometimes there are 3, sometimes there are 4, so you could bring more products to the paywall. And the usual pattern for that has always been like that. You're either buying it instantly at a discount, or you're getting a trial, but the price is higher. So it's always a choice between, do I want it right now or cheaper? Or do I need some time to decide, but I will have to pay more? So the bold hypothesis we had was people shouldn't make this choice. Like, why making a choice at a paywall is actually a good idea? We do not want them to have extra choices because we've presented enough value for them to say yes. But we're stopping them because they start comparing. Either I'm going to pay more, but later, or less, but now. So what we did, we introduced a very interesting tool that was looking like a little switcher that allows you to switch on and off your free trial, and that doesn't affect the price of your subscription. So it costs $50 without the trial. You're turning it on and it's still 50. And that was marvelous. So that was instantly more than 20% of revenue uplift, and a lot of tuning upon that helped us. And right now, in 3 years after we introduced that, I could see this in numerous apps. Like I wouldn't lie if I would say hundreds, because that's really impressive. that's not easy to believe in. And a lot of people just don't do this because it's counterintuitive and they're not bringing that. But those who are bringing that into their apps, they're definitely not changing anything, because it really gives you an instant uplift. So you're getting more trials, but also you're getting more instant purchases, because a lot of people are in control of what we're doing, in control of what they're buying. And that's really a good feeling, to be in control of something. And that doesn't affect the monetary part of the product. So it still costs the same. So that's like you're getting double good emotions in one case and on one screen. So that's basically how it works. So I could give you some examples of the products, more product features than monetization features that worked pretty well. So my favorite one was, it's like a 5-year-old hypothesis, but I still see that not everyone has still implemented that, and that's amazing. So we used to have a basic health assistant in the app that consisted of a small pop-up. So you're using your application in a way you like you're logging something, or you're reading something, or you're watching a video, and a small thing pops up from the bottom of your screen telling you that you need to do something, or you need to discuss something with an assistant. Like your period may be late. Let's see what could be the reason. And when you tap, you're getting into the dialogue, and you're you're in a chatbot. So you're talking to an artificial intelligence that helps you understand what's going on. The thing is, we brought a part of experience we have seen in instant messengers right into that pop-up. So not in the dialogue you have with the assistant, but one step before. That means that the pop-up opens, and that doesn't have static text. It has 3 dots and typing. And then a message appears like, hello. Then typing again. The next message appears. Your period is late. Typing. Want to talk about that. So basically it is very easy, but that's bringing something very humane, something that we use and something that we see on daily basis in the apps that we use like dozens of times per day, straight into the products and as close to the user as possible. Because what we need is a funnel to the health assistant, because health assistant is really good at keeping people, giving them value and converting them if that is a paid dialogue. But making people sure that that is an amazing experience by just showing them a small pop-up. I mean, just imagine how many apps do this right now, when you could just copy that experience and bring it right into the pop-up one step before, and they will see how it works. They will see that looks pretty much alive, and the conversion rate or the tap rate or open rate of these pop-ups instantly doubled when we did that. And we did a lot of other things again on top of that to make sure this hypothesis is not the last one, and we managed to grow it even more. So yeah, these are the 2 biggest examples I could give you. Not because these are the biggest ones in terms of the uplift, but they're so easy to explain that I do not need to show any screenshots.
No, absolutely. And again, I love the idea of having a typing and replying back, this pause and replying back, like you're actually talking to a person, not an AI. It makes it more personable, and I'm definitely using this in my product now. But you mentioned something, which is, let's say if I'm a product manager and I need to focus either on the success rate of the experiments or the number of experiments, which should I focus on first?
I think you could follow a simple guide because there are sample metrics you could always rely on. So first one, the number of experiments. That should grow. So even if you're doing one more every single month, that's cool. So that's like going to gym or running. I mean, even one more is better. Regarding the success rate, I would say that for a new product, success rate lower than 30% means that you're lazy at your job and you're not trying to have anything bold in your backlog. So for a new product, anything less than 30% successful is really bad. For a mature product, I would say something from 7 to 10 is pretty much okay. And by mature, I mean like, well, let's say a team of 100 people and a monthly recurring revenue of tens of thousands US dollars or euros. For enterprise, for bigger products and bigger companies like, let's say, Google or on a smaller side, Booking.com, Skyscanner, and so on, I would say we could go as low as 1-2% success rates because the journey is so polished that if you need to do something really bold that sounds like a whole company project, we will need to run. So you simply don't have that agility that you have in a smaller company. So basically for most of us guys, it's something around 10%. So 1 out of 10 is giving you uplifts, statistically significant and more than you wanted to be detected. That's cool. You could proceed.
I want to jump into growth methodologies. Can you explain your jobs to be done framework and its significance in user research?
Oh, that's an amazing one. I mean, not a big fan of Moesta, but jobs to be done is a great methodology. And the problem is every single research methodology has that smallish or sometimes really big gap between, okay, we have the results of this research, and okay, we know what we could actually do with the products. So we usually spend more on talking to users and then working on that data and then trying to arrange that in different ways, trying to present that to the stakeholders, to the whole company, and so on. And then it ends up with us, being a PM or a researcher, standing very proud with, like, I give you this insight, do something about that. So that's something I wanted to attack, because when I felt like I am doing these things, sometimes throwing that at my PMs while being a VP or while being a head of product development, I felt like they could do the same thing and everybody could do the same thing to the lowest level possible, and then a junior PM will decide what to do based on the research that was led by a VP. A lot of lost in translation. A lot of things that we spent our time on for no reason. So that's why I wanted to make jobs to be done as short as possible. And it's really very short. So it gives you at least 10 hypotheses ready for implementation in 18 hours of your time. So basically, if you hurry, you could do this in 1 week. So the idea is conducting 8 one-hour interviews with some significant switch moment you already have in mind. So I'm sure you know what a switch moment is. If not, you could read about that in any jobs to be done book. So basically, that is a moment where a person decides they need to switch from one thing to another, or they need to start trying something new. So for example, if you're walking down the street and you feel hungry, that's your switch moment. So the moment you felt hungry. Will you fall for Snickers or will you go for some healthy food? That depends, and you will decide that right in that switch moment. So all the motivations, pull, push forces, everything that affects on you at this particular point of time. So we know a correct, and again, a bold switch moment. We're talking to people about this switch moment. We're doing this in a certain methodology. So it's jobs to be done, and it's also merged with 4 forces. It actually makes sure you have the results of every single interview in a very compact format. Like that wouldn't be no more than 10 rows of texts in a Google Sheets file. That's it. Then you're putting your 8 interviews results in a row, and you're working with that with a simple methodology. Again, asking questions, trying to merge things together, and as a result, you're generating hypotheses right after the interviews. And the result of the research is hypothesis. You will have more hypotheses than needed, and some of them will be so silly, but then the whole team will work with hypothesis, with a backlog, with a list that you have already prioritized, and you will go through that with them. They will help you. They will help the hypothesis gain confidence. And let's say you're getting like 60 hypotheses after your 8 interviews, and only 6 survive, but you're getting that 6 hypotheses in 18 hours, not after a month and a half. And a lot of time spent by a lot of people from the product team trying to understand what this presentation is about, and what did that person actually say, is that correct, that we put down on this text, and so on. So basically the idea is to remove the middle parts and go straight to the hypothesis from the interview, have excessive hypothesis, knowing that we will just throw it away with the team, but that would be faster than spending more time on this, longer product analytics.
Just to recap, so it's almost 18 hours of user research process work. So we have 8 hours where we interview clients 1 hour per day, and the goal of those 1 hour is to generate hypotheses as much as possible. And where is the rest of the 10 hours go?
So 8 hours is your synchronous time. So that's the time you spend with your 8 users. Another 6 hours is you rewatching the videos of those interviews while you create hypotheses, while you put the text down. So it is a very important part that you're not generating hypotheses and you're not putting anything down while you talk to the person during the jobs to be done interview. Because jobs to be done is not your generic customer development. You have to be there emotionally. That should be like a good date. So you need to be there. You need to be there. You need to hear the person. You need to be empathic. And I mean, that may sound funny, but our first initial reply will always be socially acceptable. And our second reply to any question that is harder than how do you do will be socially acceptable as well. So you need to go deeper. You need to ask questions again, and you want to sound confident. You want to sound empathetic, so that you will get not the socially acceptable answer, but the real answer. Like I had an interview done for a web company that was selling cars. So it's like a car dealership, but they're completely online. And we've been talking to a person who bought himself a Toyota Land Cruiser, a big car, like a really good one. And it started with the first one, the reason for that. The first pull motivation was, I want my family to be safe when we travel. That is a good one, but very socially acceptable. The second one was, I want to feel like a man. I want to feel more confident because I'm driving this type of a car. That is a good one, but again, that's socially acceptable. And at the end of the day, that was number 5 or number 6. we understood that he's actually buying this car because his mother-in-law is actually insisting on that and is being pretty assertive, because she wants them with his daughter and her grandkids to go camping more, because the kids are not getting enough fresh air. I mean, you would never know this if you wouldn't be following the person and trying to go deeper and deeper, asking more and more questions. So did it give us a good hypothesis for that? Well, actually, no. We can't target ads on mother-in-laws for mothers-in-law for reasons. But what it did for us is we understood that being more manly, because I drive this car, or giving my family more safety, are bullshit reasons. I mean, they're pretty strong for a marketing company, for a brand awareness company, but when people decide whether to buy or not, whether to spend 60 to 100,000 euros for a car, definitely they know about safety. Definitely they want to be manly, but they wouldn't push them towards that if their mother-in-law is not calling them every single day and asking for a car to take their kids to a picnic.
My next question is about onboarding-driven product development. First of all, what is onboarding-driven product development, and how does it differ from traditional methods?
That is a good one for new products, and I really like it. So let's say you have a product and it is very basic. Let's say you want to add a new feature, and there are numerous ways for you to know if this feature is desired by the users or not. But they're either a bit problematic in terms of statistical significance. So you could talk to some users, you could do some qualitative research, but that wouldn't help you. So I mean, in my career, the worst qualitative research I have done worked like 10 times less than it was predicted. Like, people were saying that they're gonna pay for that, but the conversion was 10 times less than people said. So even keeping that in mind, the problem is you can't understand, is that actually valuable for people or not? Are you getting, like, again, socially acceptable replies? So that wouldn't help you. On the other side, you could create an MVP. You could just implement that somewhere in the app, but the problem would be the feature's reach. So if that is not a feature that is so core that people are going to use that during their first session or their first day, it will take days or weeks to get more users jumping into your MVP and see if they're going to use it or not. So there is a way you could actually avoid both problems at a very low cost. So these days, most apps have initial onboardings that look like either tutorials or setup. So you're asking your users questions, you're showing them some feature cards. So you're presenting the product without showing the product itself. And that is actually the key here. If you will open Flo at the moment and you will go through that, you will see dozens of screens that ask important questions and that create a necessary curiosity gap. So a user will not see any UI, will not understand what the UX, what UX is behind that. But answering those questions, the user will create a picture of a product. Well, actually, that would be more a picture of the value than the picture of the product, but it will be very close in the user's mind. So when they come to the actual product, they will have a gap in curiosity, and they will have more motivation to go into the product, to explore that, and to see, wow, everything that I have seen, every question I answered mattered. it really works for me. So they asked me how I sleep. Look, I could log my sleep here and I will see how my sleep is dependent on my hormone level. That's fantastic. So that's what's going to happen. The onboarding-driven product development says you could do a very MVP-ish MVP inside, a very small MVP of an MVP. But you could put more questions, put more feature cards in your initial onboarding. You will create a curiosity gap and you will see how users actually answer. So you could ask them, for example, how do you sleep? And the reply may be, well, I have trouble going to sleep, I have trouble waking up, I wake up in the middle of the night, and so on. Or I sleep totally perfectly. That's fine. You will see how your actual user base, how actual users you are acquiring at the moment are affected by that. So some of them who will remember that and who will see that is important will go inside, they will find your MVP. Maybe they will be a bit disappointed. That's why you have to make these experiments as short as possible. And that's why you should do a refund to pretty much everyone who asks that because of these MVP features. I mean, refunding for MVP is a must. I feel like mostly everyone does that right now, but keep that in mind if you're a junior PM and you feel like you're creating an MVP and when you feel like, okay, they already paid for that, I don't need to refund them. Because you need to have good word of mouth and that's good for your relationship with the user. Like, be a good person, goddammit. Like, so the onboarding-driven product development is basically this thing. So you are creating a small MVP, and then you're going to the very beginning of the funnel. That's right after the install happened. And you put questions that are creating a curiosity gap around this MVP. So if your MVP is about sleep, there are questions about sleeping. If your MVP is about running, the questions are about running. If your MVP is about measuring things with a ruler, that would be questions about measuring things. So you could put that together and you could see what happens. So what is important here? You're getting a lot of replies from your users, your real users, and you could see the correlation between the answer and the conversion rate. So you will see what happens with the users that answered I sleep awful and the conversion rates at the paywall compared to the people who said I sleep well. And if you see that there is no difference in that, maybe you don't need to develop this feature. Maybe an MVP has just failed. Because you could add this as a free feature if you will see like people are interested in that. You will see a lot of people have chosen I have problems, I have trouble sleeping. You could that shows you that you could create a feature for that. But what shows you that this feature will be paid for and that would create enough value for a user is definitely a gap, a positive gap in conversion rate you will see on the paywall. So again, that is a very basic concept, but the devil is in the details as always. But you could start with that. Not sure it would help most of you, but again, just reach out to me on LinkedIn. I could help you.
Absolutely. I mean, could you provide a case study or an example where this approach led to a significant product success?
I would say most of Flo growth was based on onboarding-driven product development, but that was a different issue because it was not about adding new features, it was about developing current features. So where should we go? What should be our way? So let's say stories. Should stories be longer or shorter? And we're adding questions that will help us understand, are people more into longer content or shorter content, and so on. So as for some concrete examples. One of my clients at the moment, that's Ultimate Guitar, are working on their initial onboarding at the moment, and what they have found recently is there is a huge audience of people who install the app, but they can't actually play. But the product is all about playing the guitar, and you can't do anything about that. You're a beginner of the beginners. So what happens? You could get a lot inside the app, even if you're a beginner. But there was no option to cater the beginners at the moment. So you're installing the app, and the worst you could say about yourself, let's say I'm a 3-chord strummer. So I'm someone who plays the guitar, but a bit. So they added the option of, well, actually they changed the goal selection screen, and the goal selection screen was based on how, on your professional level of playing, basically. And the lowest option was lower than it was before. And there are a lot of things in the app that could cater to those people. Very simple, very basic chords. Courses that could tell them how to play or how to tune their guitar. Very simple tutorials of very simple songs, songs that everybody knows, so you could play that, you could impress people, but that's so easy to play. Even if you open the app and you haven't ever had an instrument in your hand. So basically they tried it, and it led to a pretty impressive growth. So right now they're creating another tour, another onboarding for this particular type of users. That's pretty much the same we had at Flo, when we had users who are going to be pregnant, who are trying to conceive, and everybody who are just tracking. They had pretty much the same onboarding at the very beginning, but then we see that making 2 different branches actually pays off pretty well, because, I mean, ovulation means different things for them, and they take different supplements like folic acid, something like that. So, I mean, that's just the beginning. So you start with onboarding, and then you develop. Onboarding helps you validate your idea, validate your MVP, and then follow that up or throw it away without investing much resources into that.
No, absolutely. I know we're running out of time, but there's one question I'm dying to ask about advanced growth strategies. What are web-to-web funnels, and what makes them effective in the current market?
Oh, that is something that really goes through the early adopters phase, and that's something that everybody in almost everybody in health and fitness industry, in health and fitness vertical, does right now. So actually, web-to-web funnels is so easy. We've been discussing onboarding. So that's just taking your onboarding out of the app and putting that on the web. So what I already said is, during your onboarding, you're creating a curiosity gap while the user doesn't see the product itself. And at the end of the onboarding, there could be a paywall. So why this onboarding could not be on the web and the paywall being on the web as well? So first, you avoid store commissions. Well, definitely a lot of people would not like to pay 30% to Apple or Google. Everybody's trying to avoid that with any reasons. And this one is a completely legal reason at the moment. So that's cool. Second one is different sources of traffic. So getting people straight from Facebook to the App Store and installing something and installing your app is cool, but you're limited in your campaigns because you can't track that. You can't actually develop your campaigns because you're getting like 30 to 50% of your users giving you data associated with them. And well, again, you could extrapolate, but it's better when you could just buy some traffic knowing where it comes from and how it converts. So it helps you optimize. And also you open new traffic sources, because it's nearly impossible to buy from certain CPA networks for the apps, but it's extremely easy to do so for the web. So basically that's pretty much it. Also, web development is significantly cheaper. You don't need to publish new version of your application to the store when you want to tune something. So there is no back front end problem. And there are tools that could help you with that on the market right now. So there are tools that work as a simple builder, like no code or low code builder, where you could just put that screens with questions and feature cards together with no knowledge in software development. That's one part. I know a few products that do this. There is one product I'm a partner in that is actually reimagining that by creating the whole journey on the go, depending on what questions you already asked and what answers the person already did. Again, we could refer to an example where you could go deeper if you need to go deeper to find people's real motivation. And again, it works surprisingly well. We are scaling pretty good, and that's like 100% AI under the hood. So nobody knows what the onboarding would look like for a certain person. What we may know, well, at a certain level, is what the first couple of questions would look like. But what would be at the end? Well, the dialogue could go anywhere, but that should present the value of the product to the user, and that should capture that value by creating a paywall that again looks fantastic for a certain user. And again, the paywall is again customized on the go, and I have no idea what a paywall would look like for a certain user. Only AI does that. So again, that is a good one to try. And if you haven't tried that in your products, I think you should. The only problem that you may face here is user acquisition, because a lot of user acquisition managers nowadays have skills for buying traffic for apps, but not for the web. And that is pretty different, because for the web you have that install event where the user has already installed the app, they have committed to the app. You have push notifications to get the users back if they abandon the app, and so on. You don't have anything of that in the web. So basically it looks like if you will just try acquiring users like you did for the App Store, but for your web page, what you will see, a lot of people will land, like half of them will disappear after the first onboarding question. All of the last of them will not churn. They will go through, they will reach the paywall, and then they will churn there, giving you very low conversion. So basically, you will need someone, or you will need a partner who is going to help you with setting that up, or you will need some extra web competences in your team.
Andrey, that was a phenomenal interview. I know we run out of time, but just before we close this interview, most of our members are either product managers, business leaders. How can they find you, or how can they be beneficial for you?
Well, I would rephrase it how I could be beneficial for them. That would be better for me. I mean, we could start with a simple call or a simple LinkedIn talk, a friendly one, just to see if I could help. Because, I mean, I do product consulting almost full time right now. I have 2 products where I'm a partner. I spend time with them, but mostly, again, for a living, I'm doing product consulting, and I have bigger clients that consume like 20 to 30 hours a month. I have smaller ones that consume just 4 to 6, but I always have enough free time to have that 15 minutes to half an hour call with anyone to see if we're a good match, if I could help, if I could bring my expertise, and in exchange, I will see that they're implementing that. They will share their results, and I will see, okay, that works. I get another proof that works. So seeing that ideas and hypotheses are actually working for products is the best thing in my life, is something that drives me crazy. So yeah, just contact me on LinkedIn, just let's have a friendly chat, and if it could be beneficial mutually, that's super cool to me. If not, well, that's still a good connection, a meaningful one.
That's a great way to end this podcast. Again, I'm gonna include your LinkedIn into the notes, and I'm gonna include your personal website as well. Thank you so much, Andrey.
Thank you.